and welcome. Today we are looking at the dream investors. Now, you save up and you really save up hard and make up your 1,000 CDs, and then you walk around the road and then up the high street pops up a microfinance. Now, you don't have the DNA of your mother, your grandmother, you don't have any properties and people to guarantee for you. So you avoid the main banks and then you pop into a microfinance and save up your money, because every now and then you may need some capital either for school fees, to bump up your pam-pam store as they call it. But then what happens? 3 months down the line, a year down the line, you walk on the same high street and it's closed. You can't get your money. It's a real shame. Now, as of June, there were 443 microfinances registered by Bank of Ghana. How do they register them? Who is regulating them? And how is it that these close downs are becoming rampant? There are a few big names that are even, a bit shaky at the moment. What is happening with microfinance? Should it be more regulated, or it is fine as it is? But the story is not good. We're going to find out today why it is that we have gotten here with regards to microfinance, what the central bank is doing to make sure that those ones in the system don't get caught up. Indeed, is there any insurance so that at least those who have deposited make some money back? Folks, my name is Nana Nsakwa. This is PM Express. We're going to look at an insert of some frustrated clients, and then after I will introduce my guest. It's going to be a very exciting show. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. Dream investors, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I have with me in the studio Mr. Joe Jackson, who's a financial consultant. You may know him as a political analyst, but believe you me, he's a financial analyst. When he's not talking politics, he does finance.
Actually, finance was my first love.
Wow, I see.
Yes.
I see. Before politics came in.
Yes.
I know that. Well, Joe, why is it that, these banks or microfinances are just closing down willy-nilly, and the desperation in which people find themselves? But first of all, before we even go to the desperation, why are they closing down?
Well, it's interesting, and here, to be honest with you, I'll be able to contrast two scenarios. About between 2006 and 2008, I was actually living in Nigeria, and I was involved with the Central Bank of Nigeria in putting up a roadshow for microfinance. I was heavily involved in the microfinance law that was promulgated in Nigeria, and then ended up doing some stuff in terms of capacity building on microfinance, including writing software. So I'm going to be able to contrast the situation we have here with what we have just right down
in Nigeria. That's very good. But let me just, Joe, let me just go to the phones and speak to Mr. Kofi Bentil. Now, Kofi Bentil is an operations manager for Fast Track Microfinance. So, tell me what the dealings is within the microfinance and why it is that others are just closing down. Kofi, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Kofi. Now, Kofi, I mean, you are with Fast Track Microfinance. Now, recently, we've had DKM closing, and other ones are closing down the road. What is it that you guys are not doing or doing, wrong that's making this happen?
Well, thank you, Nana, and let me say good evening to your listeners.
Good.
It borders on a number of things. Microfinance, as it was established, was to bring closer the banking aspect to everyday people.
Okay.
Now, with all apologies, to the authors where you English is speaking and scares people away. Just as it was done for the rural bank, this was done to make everyday life better for people. Now once, like you said, we have a regulator which is supposed to give you guidelines to run just as any other institution. Now, the regulator, by part of it, regulating things that to regulate people, because now you're taking people's, like what we call public funds.
Mm-hmm.
In order not to be seen as you're taking public funds and using it anyhow, they're putting in measures that will help the public person that was putting his money into your microfinance and the microfinance yourself. Because sometimes you might not be running the thing yourself.
Okay.
Now, what happens most often is that now these particular regulations are not adhered to. Now, what you Bank of Ghana will say is, look, give me today what every week, quarterly report, is used to move, because you cannot keep the public funds and begin to misuse it. Now, flip the other and they see that, oh, for some time, you've not sent them their reports. They will remind you, Master, this is what you're supposed to do. Then you've seen people beginning to find themselves wanting and then putting also, because forget Bank of Ghana, they've been in this business, and that is why they are the regulators. They know. So when you put in those figures, it does not tally. They now call you to come so that then you spread your sheet and you see that there are certain things that have been done. Their anomalies are too much. There are anomalies that the goals are too much. And like I'm saying, look, for crying out loud, these are public funds and must be kept in such a way that, look, benefits, and then the person who is putting his money also benefits. That is it.
Well, how frequent do you need to send your report to the central bank?
Nana, it is every week. You know, the list is by 9 o'clock Thursday, every Thursday. We're supposed to, the deadline is on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, sometimes you need to mop up liquidity and all that. So then you need to do it latest by 9 a.m. And these things are spelled out. By the time you get your license, you'll be taken through all these rudiments of things. And even the Orthodox banks does those things. They do.
I see. So, I
You
mean,
need to send them their report, at least to see.
Kofi, so these ones who are...
Then to tell you what you are doing wrong, it's a corrective measure.
So how is it that these ones are able to slip through the net? Is it because they are not submitting the forms or the report, or they are fiddling with figures? Or, I mean, how do they slip through the net?
No, what happens most often, you know, Ghana business, you and I know. People begin, they sit in a room, have some fund somewhere, and so these people are doing, let me do the same. Now, one way or the other, they find, you go, they tell you what their requirements, what you're supposed to bring, and you know Ghana, you begin to gather it, you get it for them. Now, you see the CEO as a husband, the accountant is still the husband, and then the operation manager, the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so you will not have the normal, what you call corporate body structures, where you have things that will give you your balances at the end of the day. And there are softwares. I mean, you can talk about Banjo from the Germany, which we use, and luckily enough these days we have GQD, which is part of the Microfinance Association. I mean, it's inculcated in it. So that if you don't have those things, you can go to GQD, you tell them how you run your business, they build a proper structure for you. At the end of the day, you get your figures, which you will not go wrong. I mean, you will not go wrong.
Kofi, before I let you go, I mean, one of the reasons why the microfinance is attractive is the ease with which, you know, your lenders can, you know, borrow, no, your deposits can borrow from you. how is repayment? Because then it means you're going to have a higher default rate.
With your software, your GQD, and what it will begin to tell you. Now you have what we call aging loans. You have what we call bad loans, and all. It will be showing you. Now, what do we do? Now, ours is a little bit liberal as to where you go to the orthodox banks where they tell you bring this collateral. Sometimes even selling out the collateral becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you need to show is that, look, ability to pay. The risk factor is okay. We do have. And the Bank of Ghana will help you in all this. The Bank of Ghana will once you go with their rules and regulations, mm-hmm. you need to do what we call the KYC, know your customer. Now, knowing your customer is not the facial thing that you see there. You must now go back to see where he is. If he says he's selling in Katia Burger or whatever, you locate that particular shop. Make sure that particular shop is registered under AMA. The person pays his what is duly for AMA regularly. Those little things. Now you do your background check. You talk to people around the shop. How does he? And then we get to tell you. These are market things that rudiments that even my mother, those days in Makola, will know that this woman, if even you hair Ghana paste to do proper Ghana soup for his husband, he will come fight you, not pay. They will be telling you. So these are the little things we look around. Try to begin to find out from how his or her attitude towards banking. And I'm telling you, Bank of Ghana ways, even though we don't pay them anything, they spend their time to teach us. They do seminars only for us. Sometimes people don't go, they don't submit returns. Common little things. You know Ghana and the way people do their things.
Wow, Kofi, thank you very much for that insight, and I'm sure as the conversation goes on, we might come back to you. That's Kofi Bentil from Fast Track Microfinance. Thank you very much there. Let me come to studio and speak to Joe. So we've heard a bit from, there's an inside man and inside story. You're going to give us the comparison of what happens here, what happens in Nigeria.
First of all, unfortunately, I do not agree with a lot of the stuff he talked about. Mm-hmm. I think that they are not, as a practitioner in the business, they're not facing head-on the challenges that the sector has. Mm-hmm. They are making apologies for the central bank. They're talking about the central bank teaches them, the central bank. That's not the issue at stake. Mm-hmm. Number one, microfinance is a good thing. Worldwide, it's been promoted heavily. And it is true that the more people have access to financial systems, the better they progress. Otherwise, you live from hand to mouth, literally. Mm-hmm. But the institutions are very badly run. Extremely badly run. They are mismanaged, and it's very difficult to leave out any of the institutions. Mm. You run across them. I am sure that out of the 400 and something microfinance institutions, you'll be hard pressed to find 50 that are well run. Why do I say they're badly run? They're badly run simply because they do not have the capacity to run a microfinance institution. A microfinance institution is not commercial banking light. It's not diet commercial banking. It has its own set of dynamics and mindset. And what you have is people who have a bit of money, who are really money lenders, and hiring bankers who do not understand microfinance. And it's an explosive mix. You have these institutions that have no concept of the risk they are taking. So they're walking around there, taking enormous amounts of risk, and not having no idea what is happening. When you throw into that mix the grandiose stuff that the microfinance guys do, big cars, 4x4s. I mean, I've seen a microfinance institution in East Legon, and I counted 16 cars. And I asked myself, what are these cars for? Go to the places where microfinance has been successful. Go to India. I've been to India. I've seen BRAC. I've seen Sewa. The guys, they walk. Microfinance is you dealing with the bottom of the pyramid. The cost structures are different. So what we have are people who have money lending operations masquerading as banks, literally defrauding their customers because they have no idea of the risk that they are taking. And then we sit down and we complain. I hold the central bank squarely responsible for the situation.
But they take them through a really strict regime before this license is handed out.
But strict regime, please. Anybody who tells you that, tell them that they are lying. I've seen microfinance institutions. What strict regime? If you're a member of the GAMFIN, which is the Ghana Microfinance Institution Network, then GAMFIN will offer you some amount of training. And even then you can choose to go or not to go. Really what happens is that the central bank's division that supervises these microfinance institutions is grossly under-resourced. They have no capacity, no human beings, no money to do the job that they are supposed to do. And unfortunately, the people at the bottom of the pyramid who are supposed to come into the financial system are the ones who are suffering. Right? I'm prepared to bet, as you sit, you will not put your money in a microfinance institution. I'm prepared to bet that the middle class does not do that. Those who do that are those who are least equipped to lose their money. And it's so easy to say these institutions don't have, what do you call it, they don't have management. Some of the institutions are huge. In fact, there's a joke we run that if you see any microfinance institution with the word dream in its name, run a mile. So when I saw Dream Investors as your subtitle for today, I said, wow. Some of them are huge. Some of them have head offices that are bigger than savings and loans, that are as big as the smaller banks.
But are they not allowed to grow?
It's not a matter of growing. It's a matter of understanding the risk that you take. The business is very simple. You buy money and you sell money. You buy money from your depositors and you sell money by giving loans. There's always a chance that loans will not be repaid. So you have to exercise prudent measures, controls, to make sure that your loans come back. What happens? First of all, the agents they use run away with the money. The customers don't pay because the customers, nobody did any proper due diligence about these customers. The customers, they don't pay. The management pay themselves fat salaries out of depositors' funds. So you have an explosive mix. And Bank of Ghana sits by the sidelines, under-resourced, unable to do anything about this situation. And we see, and I tell you this, some of them are clean fraudsters.
Let me go to the phone and speak to Collins Ambosa, who's the council chair for GAMFIN. Collins, hello and welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother, and good evening to your panelists and to your viewers.
Collins, we have a situation on our hands, and from where you sit, as the council chair, I think you'd be a perfect person to explain to me, but Joe Jackson is here with me in the studio, and he's painting a very grim picture of the reality on the ground as to, most of your members are going in blind. They have a bit of money and think, yeah, we can do it. The structures are not correct. They're not proper due diligence done, and therefore the man on the ground ends up being bitten. What's the true picture?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. I have always been saying that microfinance, although not new in Ghana, we are just within 4 or 5 years of regulation, and it has its own challenges. We are growing a system that is still new, and definitely some of these challenges must be anticipated. Bank of Ghana is regulating close to 450 institutions, and that number alone tells us that they alone will not be able to supervise. And because of that, some of the institutions go out of what is expected of them to do things that compromises their own very existence. But I think that it's bringing out the needed experience throughout all the challenges that we are having. And I believe that as time goes on, the system itself will be able to win itself out of some of these teething problems. I believe.
How would that happen?
Yes, because when you even look at the capacity of the institution, some of them are very small, and because they are small, it affects their operation. And definitely with time, a lot of them will have to consolidate. A lot of them have to merge. But we cannot get it right just at the initial stages. And so I've always been saying this, that with all these challenges going through, it will force a lot of the institutions to start thinking about how they can come together to build stronger institutions, putting their capital, putting their human resources, and all that together. Again, when it comes to capacity, we have institutions that lack the capacity. The APESs are running training for these institutions, but one of the challenges I have realized is the high attrition rate. You train these staff for these institutions, and the next time they move on to either savings and loans or universal banks and all that. So there is always depletion of human resource at that level. And these are all challenges that come in to confront these institutions because, as I said, it's new, and we are all trying to work hard to build it up.
Let me bring Joe in here. Joe, do you agree that it would iron out as it goes along?
I'm tearing my hair out, honestly. Let's look at the situation he's painting. We're new, so we're going to go through teething problems. And in that process, who suffers? Bank of Ghana licensed 450 institutions. Did they not look back to see how much capacity they had before they licensed those institutions? What were they thinking of when they had so few people to do this job and they licensed so many institutions? And it's unfortunately, I disagree with him. It's too simple to say they will merge and some will collapse. They are going under with depositors' funds. They're running away. There's a high suicide rate among these people. They don't even know what they're getting to. It's not going to resolve itself by mergers and acquisitions and the build-up of capacity. No, somebody has to step in and fix this and protect the man in the street.
What do you reckon? Close some down, or?
Pardon?
What do you reckon? Close them down?
Some definitely have to be closed down. A lot of them have to be closed down. The Bank of Ghana has to hold directors responsible, right? They have to beef up the inspectorate division, right? they have to promulgate the microfinance law, and there's no, they have some set of regulations and rules. But you go to Nigeria, there's a microfinance law that allows you to get licensed at different stages with a proper close monitoring that goes into it, holding directors responsible, making sure the governance is right. Listen, we're in a mess.
Let me go to Collins. Hello, do I have Collins? Hello, do I have Collins?
Yes.
Oh, good. I got you back. Collins, is the Bank of Ghana still registering? If let's say tomorrow I wanted to start up, I have my money and I fit the bill, can I go and still register, or there's a freeze on it now?
Yes, but to come back to your question, I think what we need to understand is that Bank of Ghana didn't get up one day and decided to issue license to institutions that have applied.
Okay.
Our case was a unique situation. The institutions already in operation before the regulation came. And it would have been wrong on the part of Bank of Ghana to close these institutions and ask them to apply for license first, because then that would have compromised the depositors. Okay. And so sometimes we need to understand the situation as it was before the regulation came in. By the time Bank of Ghana started regulating these institutions, we had close to over 600 to 700 institutions already operating.
Wow.
And just going in to say, I've closed you down, would have meant losing a lot of money that depositors have with these things.
Collins, please hold on. I just want to take a quick break because I need to continue the conversation from what happened after they closed down. So please hold on for me. We're coming straight back.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much for staying tuned. And Dream Investors is the topic today. And we are looking at microfinance, how it's being mismanaged, how the ordinary folk is being bitten very hard. Some are committing suicide. And, I mean, if you saved 5 years and you manage to make 600 cedis and you turn up one day and you're told that your 5-year savings of 600 cedis is gone, that must be a big blow. But just before the break, we were speaking to Collins Zamponsa, who is the council chair for GAMFIN. And he posted, he painted a very peculiar picture of that there were about 700, microfinances operating without any license, and then central banking stepped in to try and regulate them. I mean, that obviously trimmed them down. Now we have about 450. Where do we go from here? Do I have you, Collins?
Yes, I'm still on that.
I mean, that was a really peculiar picture you painted, that, these companies were operating without any regulation, and then Bank of Ghana stepped in to, look, let me go and regulate this, which is the right thing to do. I mean, Joe didn't understand, why should Bank of Ghana even come in and say, well, I'm going to regulate it because because in theory, it was an illegal entity.
Exactly. And you see, theoretically, it makes a lot of meaning to say that they should have closed all of them and then start the process all over again. But then the question then becomes, who manages the depositors' funds? Mm-hmm. Because the moment you attempt to close them down, a lot of them will go down there and the depositors will lose their funds. And so for me, I think the right thing that Bank of Ghana did was to allow them to continue operating, get them into associations so that there will be some form of discipline and self-regulation among themselves. And then Bank of Ghana starting the process of regulation. And since they started, we've seen a lot of development that is enriching the process. For instance, when the regulation started, all the microfinance institutions were all under the Banking Supervision Department. Then a whole department was set aside for microfinance institutions. That is the Office of Other Financial Institutions Department. We've seen increases in the required capital. It started with 100,000, it went to 500,000. Now by 2017, it has to go to 2 million. These are all ways to ensure that institutions are encouraged to come together to merge so that they create a stronger institution, and then also control the influx. So for now, if you want to acquire a microfinance tier 2 license, then you have to have a paid up capital of 2 million to be able to come in. So I think that these are all ways to strengthen the process. Sometimes people compare Ghana to East Africa, to India. They also went through their challenges. The case of Andhra Pradesh and all of that is there. They all went through their challenges, and gradually they were able to establish their regulatory structures that brought discipline into their system. So we don't have to rubbish the whole thing. And again, microfinance is playing a major role. He was talking of those at the bottom of the pyramid. Who is taking care of them? If we even take the institutions that have gone down, some still granted credit to individuals who are still holding on to that. And so I will admit that there are challenges from the perspective of the operators, but it's all not gloomy for us to paint a picture as if microfinance is something that needs to be killed, and the regulator shouldn't even waste time trying to regulate it. I believe that if we work collectively, all of us as a nation, and work towards this thing, I believe that we'll be able to get to a point where these institutions will be stronger enough to stay in business, to provide the needed support to those at the bottom of the pyramid, so that we can include them financially in the system that we are operating in.
Yeah, I'm going to come to the studio, and then Joe, I mean, what could the central bank have done? I mean, these guys were in operation. They've already taken people's money. The same guys are down the pyramid. If you close them down, you're going to kill them all.
So the alternative is much better. That now regulated institutions are going down like 10 pins. You see, somewhere we have to draw the line in the sand. It's not just good enough. At that time, they were illegal. Right? You don't take an illegality and say, because it's existing, I'm bringing you into the fold and I'm not fixing the problems, so this is where we sit. It's just not right. The issue is that we had a problem. There were illegals running. We should have fixed it then. Not incorporate them, license. What did we do? Take those who are legal, license them, and not have a capacity to. I have a question. How many of these institutions have merged since since the regulation came into place?
Well, at the time, as Collins is saying, there was only, I think, 100,000. Now they're moving to 2 million, and that may force people to come together.
They don't merge like that. How many of them have merged? Everybody is believing that they will go alone, get it, and there are so many. Anyway, every institution, knowing the kind of challenges it has on its books, is afraid to merge with another institution. I'm saying the central bank has to take responsibility. The central bank has to resource its inspectorate division. The central bank is the regulator and has to. What we have now is chaos. What we have now is killing the. You see, the central bank is the custodian of the financial institution.
Do you think they should put a freeze on new guys coming on board until...
Obviously. That's step one. There should be a freeze. Even today, you can go for a new license. There should be a freeze. They should fix those that they've given licenses to before they move forward.
Build capacity in terms of monitoring?
build capacity in terms of money, resource there. You see, my challenge with them is not, listen, they are under-resourced. But my challenge with the Bank of Ghana is this. This is a key part of the economy. This is where the growth drives up. And these depositors, you seek to bring them into the financial system and improve our financial inclusion, right? Now, what you're doing is that you're driving them away. You're driving them away. There are certain people who say, me, I will not do anything with any financial institution because they will steal my money. They will disappear with my money. How do you address those people? And the challenge you have is we have a regulator that is watching the bottom of the pyramid get disenchanted with these institutions around them. Let me tell you a story. Go to the Brong-Ahafo region. Go to Upper West and Upper East. Go to the Northern region. You know what happened? Government workers took huge loans and took them to these institutions that promised to pay them 60% in 90 days. So if you took 1,000 cedis, in 90 days, you get 1,600 cedis. That was equivalent to over, 240% return per annum. What did they do with the money? Because you are buying money and selling money. What were they doing to it? It was a pyramid scheme. And yet, listen very carefully, and yet these institutions, when they were closed down, people lobbied and Bank of Ghana reopened them. What has happened? The depositors are now standing there screaming for their money.
Let me go to Collins. Hello, Collins. Have I got Collins?
Yes.
Collins, good. Very
yes.
good. Collins, number one, you think the central bank should put a freeze until they build capacity in terms of monitoring the 450, nationwide?
Yes. I think that the regulator cannot just get up and say that we have capped issuance of license. What they can do and what they are doing now is to make it a bit difficult to enter. And I believe that is why the required capital has been increased to 2 million Ghana cedis.
Okay.
But to correct a misconception, I think that with the issue of the institution in the Brong-Ahafo region where they were allowed to reopen to the public, it wasn't due to lobbying or whatever. The regulator sat down with management. They assessed and audited their operations and asked them to recapitalize and pay back clients' deposits to them. You see, as a regulator, their focus is to ensure that depositors don't lose their deposits. And so every decision they take, the depositor is the first consideration. And so any attempt to close an institution and the end result will be depositors losing their deposit, that will be something that the regulator will not do. Again, these institutions were not operating illegally. Some of our member institutions were operating under the money lending ordinance, which was repealed recently. And that gave them the legal right to do money lending. Then again, some were operating under the Susu Collectors Association, which had been mandated to do self-regulation among its members. And so that was what they were doing before regulation came in. So it wasn't like they were operating outside the law, and so they were illegal, and so the regulator could just step in and then close them down. But in any case, I believe that if there is a problem with the system, as the people, we all need to contribute in a way. For instance, these institutions advertise in the media Do we ask them whether they are licensed? Do we ask the public how much interest they are getting from these institutions? If we also don't even do public education and educate the public and the client, and you go to an institution and they say, I'll give you 200% in 6 months, and you put your investment there, and then you lose that investment, you can't go back to blame the regulator, because it's the responsibility of you, the investor, to also check the background and even ask yourself whether this rate that I'm being promised is realistic. But because we haven't also educated the public very well, they rather go in to gamble with their investment, and it ends up in some of these situations. The Bank of Ghana is currently regulating 447 institutions, and then you get one or two having liquidity challenges. I don't think that is something that should call for closing the institutions and withdrawing licenses and all that. As I said, in India and other places that now we are saying they are doing so well, they also had their own challenges. It gave the regulators the experience and then the needed knowledge to review the regulations, and gradually they are getting out of some of the challenges we are having. That doesn't mean that they still don't have challenges. They still have challenges.
Collins, one of the things that came up before you came on air was that some of the microfinances were getting too big, had big headquarters. Joe made a reference of one that had about 16 cars parked in their forecourt, and they were thinking, for microfinance, you need to, live a little bit more of a low life. I mean, you are in there. What's your take on that?
Yes, for that, I support him on that. I think that the over-elaboration is also one thing that is really affecting the operation of these institutions, because for microfinance, even the loans that you grant is very small. So how come you see institutions bigger and well furnished and having so many vehicles as against even a bank? These are some of the things that we are telling the institutional operators. And we tell the apexes in their meetings, we educate them. And if you've observed the trend, we started having liquidity challenges about 4 years ago. But the last 2 years, you hardly hear of an institution having liquidity challenges, having a run on and all that, apart from the two that currently we are handling. So I think that we all need to also advise ourselves. It's not about the number of branches that you open or how big your office is and the type of car you use. Microfinance is microfinance. And we as operators will have to understand that. And this is where I also want to call on the regulator to also look at some of these things. If the institution becomes too flamboyant, we need to check them. We need to ensure that they are not using the depositors' funds to do that. If you have your own capital and you want to do that, fine. But if the huge offices, the vehicles, and all that is coming from the depositors' funding, then institutions will have to be made accountable and be responsible.
Collins, before I let you go, I mean, how do we get the confidence back? Because people are now really saying, look, I just can't risk it. And on the other side of the fence, you may seem distant, but somebody's life savings is 1,000 cedis. I mean, that's their life savings. And so if you close down and say, I've taken your life, my 1,000 cedis, I mean, that's him finished. How do we build their confidence back? Because there's so much of it, as if to say all the 450, are in trouble. But as you pointed, it was probably one or two which are in trouble.
Yes, it's sad things have gone this way, but I think that we as a nation will also have to work together to bring back the confidence, because with the financial sector, if information is not well managed, then it triggers panic. And once the panic is triggered, then it spreads to all the banks or the microfinance institutions, not only the ones that have been affected, it affects the rest. So I think that as a first step, the media will also have to know how to manage the information when these things comes up. Because I know that the current situation we are handling started at Kaneshie. The media picked it up and then it spread to all the other branches because people wanted to rush in to take their deposit. Again, I know district and metropolitan assemblies grant operating permit to this institution. Do they ask for their license? Some are illegal. So if we work as a team, and the district assemblies and the metropolitan assemblies will ensure that every institution that works within their jurisdiction is licensed, is being regulated by Bank of Ghana, we'll be able to weed out most of the illegal ones. And so I believe that as a nation, we also need to take financial literacy seriously and educate the public for them to know that investment is not gambling.
Thank you very much, Collins. Thank you very much on that. Joe, we are blowing it out of proportion. A couple of them have gone down. There's still many, doing well. Why are we panicking?
A couple? Go to Kumasi. Ask about Noble Dream. What happened? DKM. There are 6 institutions in the Brong-Ahafo region now. All of them paying horrendous amounts. All of them unable to pay. So what is best? That we regulated them and then the owners have run away? Or we closed them down and dealt with the issue?
Let me take a break and come back and see which way it will be best. Don't move. Thank you very much for staying, and we are talking dream investors. Microfinance are literally looking after the unbanked, because I remember I did a little research some time ago, and there were only about 3% of Ghanaians that had conventional bank accounts. And I was amazingly shocked. And at the time, I think it was even less than 3 million of us who had a proper bank account. And that's including your 2, his 3, that 5, all put together, we have about 3 million bank accounts. So these are institutions which are very, very much needed to boost the economy, because your kenke seller, your truck pusher, your watch seller, they're all making good amounts of money, but can't be bothered to queue up in the high street, big bank, very intimidating surroundings for them. So this was a good way to keep their money. But now, they are also scared, because I might as well keep it under my bed and hope to God that the Anambra does not come in. Joe.
Listen, the situation is dire. People are in debt. I talked about government civil servants who took their money, who took loans, some of them took 5-year loans and handed the money to these institutions. And all of a sudden, he's faced with a 5-year payment over 5 years, plus interest for the money that is the principal is gone, finished. The people have closed, they have run away, you can't find them, managers have disappeared. The central bank should rise up.
Can they really do anything? Because, this...
They have to. They can. We have the capacity. And let me tell you this. The financial system, it's very, very integrated. If microfinance institutions start to go down because people feel that they are not worthy, you wake up one day and it will have hit your commercial banks.
How is that linked?
Because some of them have loans from commercial banks. Some of them have some of them have their money deposited at commercial banks. So listen, one institution had taken over 70, 80 million cedis, right? a commercial bank in this country. One institution has collapsed. Now people are scrambling around trying to cover that hole. The issue is not just the depositors down there. The issue cuts across the sector. And the central bank needs to step in to fix it. It's not only the small depositor, bigger institutions are involved.
I remember there was one institution, the ones that started with the tilapia thing.
Oh, U.S. tilapia.
U.S. tilapia. Now, my understanding, if it's right, is that they took the monies and then started investing in real estate. Now they could have gotten the money back, but not as quick as people wanted it. And just as they couldn't pay the money, there was panic withdrawal, which led them into that chaos. I mean, could that be what's going on, where they've invested elsewhere? The returns are good, but the timing, they may need more timing.
If you see, listen, real estate is a long-term investment. You don't take depositors' funds, put it in real estate, and then promise them fantastic returns when, what do you call it? When it will take time to realize your money from real estate, right? And so here's what I'll tell you. If you have any institution and is doing real estate, go and take your money. It has taken your short-term money and put it into an extremely long-term investment. There's a mismatch. The day you want your money, they will not have it ready for you.
But your returns will be good if you're patient.
Well, you can look at it this way. You can say the interest rates they're giving you are good, except your principal is gone. It's okay to say they're giving me 10% a month, so if I give them 1,000 cedis, I get 100 cedis a month. That only makes sense if eventually you get your 1,000 cedis back. If you're not going to get your 1,000 cedis back, then you have been cheated. You have been defrauded. And frankly, some of these schemes never plan to give their depositors money back, because they were using the money coming in to pay interest just to keep the scheme rolling. It was a pyramid. Some of them are running pyramid schemes. Simple.
How would an average Joe realize this is a good bank to go, or that's not a good one to go? How do you know?
I would say I would look at them. If it's a microfinance institution, don't be faked by the big lifestyles of the managers. How do they live? How does the institution spend its money? If I come into your yard and go all these new cars, branded, fancy, I'm scared for my money. If the manager is driving a huge big 4x4, I'm scared for my money. You're a microfinance institution. Your margins are not that big.
Thank you very much, Joe Jackson. And I think this story is evolving. I don't think it's ended yet. And I'm sure in a few weeks' time, it will come back on the table. Let's find out what the Bank of Ghana is going to say, how they're going to regulate all these things. On Thursday, those of you who follow me on radio, on Joy FM, 2 to 3 p.m., that's my opinion. And what am I talking about? Let my time wasting count. It's a very hot, very sensitive show. You don't want to miss it. Thursday between 2 and 3 p.m. on Joy FM. Let my time wasting count. You want to hear it? Tune in. Joe, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
And this is an issue that should concern all of us.
I think it should do. And tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.